Hello, my name is Richard Knoll, and I have been researching and studying the subject of the afterlife for several years. I am not a religious expert, but more of a business-oriented person whose background has included serving as CEO of First Vermont Bank and Trust Company, and later as an adjunct professor of management at Keene State College, and finally as a part-time writer of articles for a few national magazines. Most of my thoughts about life until recent years were based primarily on science. But everything changed when 6 years ago I took advantage of modern technology and began a serious study of the subject of the afterlife. I started looking at the many available videos on this subject on YouTube, mostly near-death experiences and shared death experiences. These views led me to read many related books on the subject by such well-educated experts as Dr. Bruce Grayson, Dr. Jeffrey Long, Dr. Raymond Moody, Dr. Jeff O'Driscoll, Dr. Mary Neal, Dr. Eben Alexander, and many, many others. Some of these medically educated authors had themselves near-death or shared-death experiences, while others had studied the patterns of these experiences. All became convinced of some form of afterlife existence, and they all did a good job of convincing me as well. Exactly where do we all go after our physical death? I think based on all my research that may well depend on what we experience and the decisions we make during our current life on earth. What we learn about the importance of love and compassion and kindness, and how we treat other individuals, as well as how we take care of the natural beauty of our planet Earth. When we look at the overall situation here on Earth, we have to be discouraged with what continues to go on with many disturbed human beings and their lack of ability to truly seek world peace. Unfortunately, we see that wars never stop. Today we see wars continuing in Gaza, Ukraine, Iran, and various other parts of the world. We continue to see young children pulled from war ruins or dying from starvation or disease. How do we make sense of this continuing chaos and the loss of so many innocent lives? We have to ask, what is our purpose relative to all the tragic chaos around us? I have come to believe that the answer to this question involves the continuing creation of souls by a divine God who places these souls in created human bodies, bodies with brain-related free will. And how each individual exercises that free will affects the character of his or her God-implanted soul. God keeps track of how our free will choices affect the overall condition of his planet Earth, as well as how those free will choices affect the souls of our fellow human beings. Again, it bears repeating. We must understand that how God's created human beings use the gift of free will determines what transpires here on God's planet Earth. God hopes that human beings use their free will to make loving and caring decisions that will not only improve the overall character of their souls, but also the souls of the individuals they interact with, as well as how their actions improve the overall physical condition of God's planet Earth. After my years of researching several NDEs and shared death experiences, after-death communications, as well as reincarnations, I feel in my heart that there is a path to God's ultimate heavenly domain. That domain is one of permanent peace and love, one of beautiful surroundings, beautiful music, joy, and a place where all have loving care for and interact with one another. But it is also, I believe, a kind of heavenly school where deserving souls are trained to be guides and guardian angels, to be able to spend periods of time returning to God's earth to help struggling souls find their way to God's ultimate heavenly kingdom. Again, I believe that every human being is created by God and that every human being is given a soul at birth. I also believe that that soul may well have lived in a previous human body or previous human bodies, depending on the many free will choices of the individual or individuals where the soul has previously been placed. I also believe that God hopes that every created soul placed in a human body will experience a minimum of one complete adult life and have the opportunity to evolve to an appropriate level of enlightenment. If an individual soul does not have that opportunity to completely evolve because of poor free will decisions of other individuals, for example, declarations of war or the passing on of a fatal disease or premeditated murder or an unexpected fatal accident, then God may place that soul in a new physical body for further evolvement. How many times souls need to be replaced in new bodies depends on the quality of individual free will decisions as they move toward a God-approved appropriate level of enlightenment. I believe again that God wants every soul that he created to reach at least one complete or full lifetime on earth. And that can happen only if at least one of the bodies that soul has been placed in lives well into adulthood and accordingly provides an opportunity to evolve to a level of enlightenment that triggers God's decision to welcome that soul into his permanent heavenly kingdom. And again, that trigger into God's ultimate heaven will depend on the loving, caring, free will choices made during the life of the individual in which that soul has been placed. Or, in the case where God feels there is a need of more involvement, the loving, caring, free will choices made over multiple lifetimes. God, our Creator, is and always will be the ultimate judge of when it is time for a soul's entry into his heavenly kingdom. I believe that some individuals, like Mother Teresa, have their souls directly welcomed by God into his ultimate heavenly kingdom. I have watched several videos of good men and women who have lived good, honest lives and have had near-death experiences where they meet God and are given a choice to proceed to God's divine heaven or return to earth to take care of struggling relatives. In most of these cases, those individuals choose to come back to help those struggling relatives. Many are also told it is just not their time to advance to the heavenly atmosphere, and that there is a need for them to return to earth to do more and learn more, so God sends them back for more additional evolvement. Also, there are many YouTube videos of individuals who have shared death experiences, where they travel with a deceased loved one to a barrier point beyond which the shared death experiencer cannot go, but the loved one travels on to God's heavenly kingdom. We can only assume that the loved one in such cases has made the appropriate level of free will decision-making over what God feels as a complete lifetime to warrant his or her soul being welcomed into God's permanent heavenly kingdom. One might ask me why I have confidence in my afterlife beliefs. Well, most of that confidence comes from the many testimonies of innocent young children who testify that their souls have previously lived in bodies of other individuals. These innocent children are the purest of messengers, and their testimonies are so important. What they tell us helps explain how God responds to many horrifically bad free will decisions that have led to the very premature deaths of so many innocent young men and young women, well before they have had a complete adult life. Just think about the thousands of innocent young people put to premature death by misguided German leaders in the horrific Holocaust. And think about all the young men and women in their teens and early 20s killed in the Civil War, World War I and World War II, and the many other needless conflicts all over the globe. All these early tragic deaths occurred before so many individuals got to experience a complete adult life. How does a loving, caring, forgiving God react to those many tragic early deaths? His answer, I believe, is new life for all those souls in new bodies through the miracle of reincarnation. The innocent testimonies of children help explain the many lessons we need to learn involving reincarnation. One example again is the Holocaust and the loss of so many of God's innocent women and their innocent children. The young innocent Swedish girl Barbara Collin was sent back by God to show us that the Holocaust victims would never be abandoned by God, but would have new bodies for their souls to evolve more in the future. And there are many cases of young men who lose their lives in the many unnecessary wars, who are sent back to tell us about their previous life or lives where they were not able to complete. There is no doubt in my mind that reincarnation is a real and important God option for all those who don't get the opportunity to live a complete, full adult life. In summary, based on my several years of research, which again include viewing the testimonies of hundreds of near-death experiencers and shared-death experiencers, as well as the reading of over a dozen books by medical professionals who themselves have had such experiences who have thoroughly studied the patterns of such experiences, as well as the testimonies of countless pure innocent children regarding their past lives, I am totally convinced of the existence of a joyful, peaceful, eternal afterlife. So thank you for watching my 10-minute video.